Hello everyone, this is Michael with GeekDisorder, aka Lavic. Hope y'all are all having a great day today. So in this video, we're going to go over the basic structure of an HTML and CSS document. And so to do this, what we need to do is we need to bring up Visual Studio Code, which I have on my left, and Google Chrome, which I have on my right. And we're going to start off in Visual Studio Code. Basically, what we're going to do is we have some buttons over here to the left-hand side. The one we're going to be working most in is this top one. It's the Explorer. So what this does is it gives us a place to store, like to organize, whatever we're making. In this case, it's a website. It gives us a place to organize our website. And to do this, we have to have a folder. So I have this folder on my desktop, and I've already created it. I called mine Basic HTML and CSS Doc. You can right click and create your new folder if you don't have one and save it wherever you like. Once you do that, just double click on the folder and then click select. What this is going to do is going to open up this welcome page. We don't really need it, so I'm going to close it. But now if you notice, it says the name of my folder right here. And when I hover over that, it gives me some options. I can create a new file, I can create a new folder, I can refresh, and I can collapse. So let's go ahead and create our HTML file. So I'm gonna click on that icon that says new file. I can also go to file, new file. But I'm just gonna do it from here. And I'm gonna call my HTML file index.html. You can call it default.html. Either one will work. That's what you're going to name the main HTML document in your website. That's like spud.online. When you go to that, it's an index.html. The other web pages, any other HTML documents I create, I can give them different names, But the web server is going to look for something like index.html or default.html. So that's going to be the first one it opens if someone just goes straight to your domain name. All right, and from there, I'm ready to start actually coding my HTML document. So an HTML document has two main parts. It has a doc type, and it also has a document tree. So how do you code the doc type, and what does the doc type do for you? A doc type, what it does, it tells the browser what you're doing. In this case, we're coding a web page in HTML5. So how do we tell it that? It looks something like this. As you see, as I'm typing here, it's suggesting. Visual Studio Code is giving me suggestions. This is what I want. I can click on it, and that is the doc type for HTML5. Or you can just, you can just type it out, and it doesn't really matter if you type this uppercase or lowercase. But normally all HTML code is lowercase except for this doc type declaration, and normally it is capitalized. Now, if you leave it, all lowercase or all capitalized, it's not going to matter. It's just something like uniformity throughout your website. Kind of like the standard is lowercase for everything except for that doc type declaration right here. All right, so now the browser knows that we're using HTML5 to code this web page. So the second part of our HTML document is a document tree. What that is that's where the structure and any content for your web page goes. So how do you tell the browser that that's what you're doing? Well, we use something called an HTML tag. This is the opening and this is the closing. And this is everything in between here is the structure and the content of your web page. All right. So don't really concern yourself on learning or memorizing the tags and elements I put up here for this. Basically, I'm just wanting to show you a basic structure of a web page. And we're going to go over all this in detail later on. So beyond this point, don't really don't really go out of your way to memorize or write it down. All the other videos following this are going to cover those elements and tags. All right, so basically the HTML tag here has two main parts, and the first one is called a head. All right, And inside of this is all of your like your title to your web page, information about what your web page is about, uh, stuff like that. No real content or page structure goes in the head. So, if, like I said, you could have a title, and if I put this is my web page title, and then I save this, and then to load this into Google Chrome, I can do that two different ways. What I normally do is if I go over here and I just hold down, click and hold down, I can drag this over and drop it, and there we go. It loaded my web page. If you don't want to do that, or you're using a different editor, what you can do is you can actually navigate to where your web page is saved, and then open it up that way. And you see it opened up the same web page. All right, so there's my title. All right, and for now, that's all we're going to put up here. We'll come back to it in a second when we get to the CSS, but for now, that's it. The second main part of a document tree is the body. All right, the body element. And this is where all your content and your page structure is going to go. So I can put something up here like a header 1. Basically, this is just like a the header of your web page. Like this is my header. And if I refresh, there we go. See, now content is actually showing up in our web page. I can go down here and I can type this is more content, and then if I click enter and I type in more text and I save this, I just want to demonstrate that the HTML code here, as you see, this is more content, more text, they both showed up on the same line, even though in my editor over here they are on different lines. And the reason is space, like spaces, if you hit the space bar and then like moving to a new line, all that empty space has no meaning to your HTML document when it shows up in the browser. The only time it does is like this single space between stuff. It doesn't really care about anything else. So how do you tell it that you want a new line? Well, this is what we call an empty tag. Like all the ones right here, there's an opening and there's a closing. An empty tag, what that is it looks like this. There's no official opening, there's no official closing, it's just the tag itself. And what this does is this is a new line. What I'm doing here is I'm coding something in, a tag in that's going to tell the browser, hey, I want a new line from here on out. And that's exactly what happens here. I can go over here in front of more text and I can move that way over, and then I can save and refresh. There's no change. That's because all of this extra text or the empty space there, it just removes it. It has no meaning. Okay, so we got that. All right, and then that's what our web page looks like currently. Okay, and so let me go ahead and get to the CSS part of this so we can kind of see how that looks. There's a few different ways to actually include CSS into your HTML document. The way that is most commonly used and the correct way to do it is to create a CSS file. And so I just created a new file called main.css. There are other ways to do it where you include it in the HTML document itself. I would recommend not getting into the habit, because if you're actually going for a job or something professional where you're going to be, freelancing and working on web pages to sell or something like that, you're going to want to separate your content from the formatting of that content. And so HTML is the content, CSS is the formatting. It's best to keep those separate. So what does the CSS look like? Well, right now we have a header over here, an H1. So if I come over to my CSS document and I do H1 space and then open the curly brackets, all right, what I'm doing here is I'm putting in CSS code that tells that's going to tell the browser that, hey, I'm looking for every h1 tag I have in my HTML, and I'm going to do something that's going to affect that tag. Like right now, I'm going to affect the color. All right, and again, don't worry about the code really. It's just I'm showing you what the basic document looks like. All right, so I've saved both of these. If I refresh, nothing happened. What I've got to do is I've got to link these two together, and the way I do this is in my head element up here, because I'm not putting in content. This is just information about my web page. I'm telling the browser, hey, I've got some CSS out there. This is how you get to it, and I want it used on this page. So to do that, I'm going to do a link tag and then href. Basically, that just tells the browser where to go to look for this, and I called it main CSS. All right, and then rel. Basically, I'm telling it what kind of document this is, and this is a style sheet. All right, and then we're going to close that. And now if I come over here and refresh, it's now looked up this CSS, and it's colored my h1 tag and everything inside of it blue. So awesome. And that is what we wanted to happen. So with CSS, you have what you call a selector, and that is this h1. We're selecting the HTML tag or element that we want to work with. All right, and then we have the curly braces, and inside that we have what we call a property and a value. Color is our property and blue is our value. Of this h1 selector, I am wanting to affect the color property, and I'm wanting to make it blue. Okay, so I'm just setting that, and that's what you see over here. But yeah, that is the basic structure of an HTML and CSS document. Next, what we're going to cover is basically just comments, and they're pretty easy. And then from there, we'll move straight into coding the head element in our HTML document and everything you can put in there, and then we'll move on to the body. All right, well, until next time, y'all have a great rest of y'all's day, and take care.